With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 77. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 56. And Thursday, sunny with a high near 78. Experience live music like never before at Crooner's Supper Club. Enjoy top-tier performances in the main stage showroom, Dunsmore Jazz Room, or Under the Stars at the Belvedere. Plus, Maggie's Piano Lounge is always open with no cover charge. Find more details at croonersmn.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting live in the 2 p.m. hour from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on your morning drive or over your morning breakfast at 5 a.m. on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk. Welcome to the Gailey Show. I am your host, John Parker. Jim Pounds, hello, executive producer.
How are you, John?
I am well. Patrick, I appreciate the weather you're giving us.
Oh, good. I'm really glad. I have so much control over that.
I know.
Well, that is the conspiracy theory, right? That us progressives, we know how to control the weather and we direct hurricanes and all that stuff. So,
sure.
You know, I'm gonna thank the progressives. Thank you, Patrick, for that.
Well, I'm at least thankful that I was able to get all that smoke out of the way.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. That's been something we've been dealing with here in Minnesota.
Explain
Smoke
that
from
to
the
Illinois.
Canadian wildfires
Yeah.
have been coming down for a number of days now, sort of covering the huge swaths of Minnesota and Wisconsin. So glad that we were able to get a break from that, and hopefully they are getting those fires. There were 188 of them at one point.
It's just terrible.
Across several provinces
To
in
think of,
Canada. So
frightening.
yeah.
Yep.
It's difficult right now. All right, what is on the show today? In the second half hour, Jake Wittich, managing editor for Chicago's Windy City Times, is back with his reporting on Channyn Lynne Parker, who is the CEO of Brave Space Alliance and was just named the interim CEO of Equality Illinois. So Equality Illinois is going through a leadership transition. We're going to talk to Jake about that. A queer Wisconsin teenager is now seeking hate crime charges after being brutally attacked at a McDonald's in Illinois. And plus, there are a bunch of pride events happening in Chicago and the suburban area. So folks who are living there or folks who are in southeast Wisconsin or in Indiana or whatever and want to go over there in the Twin Cities, bunch of events that you could go to. So Jake is going to give us that tour. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has put out its assessment of MAGA's budget bill. And as you can imagine, it's not great. I want to talk a little bit about Boston as well today, because there is new reporting about how they are not experiencing the same loss of funding from their sponsors for Pride Month that other cities like Minneapolis and New York, etc., have been experiencing. Interesting reasons why. Yep. As part of that, I'd like to have a conversation about the new queer approach to corporations that we should be having. No more pink washing. 952-946-6205.
Let's have it.
Pete Hegseth has ordered the Navy to remove Harvey Milk's name from a Navy ship. Harvey Milk was the first openly gay politician in San Francisco who was assassinated in 1978. Hegseth waited until Pride Month to make this order, and it is history repeating itself, unfortunately, with Harvey Milk. And we're going to discuss that. But up first, queer literary icon Edmund White has passed away. He was 85 years old. His agent, Bill Clegg, has confirmed that the author has passed away. No additional details are beyond that. Edmund White was journalism, essays, plays, and novels such as A Boy's Own Story and The Beautiful Room is Empty. He was of that generation with Larry Kramer and Armistead Maupin, who were basically like, screw you all, we're going to be queer and we're going to do it in popular culture and we're going to write about it and we're going to be successful too. He was present, I had forgotten about this actually, he was present at the Stonewall raids and riots of 1969 and was a resident of New York and Paris for much of his life, where he was, again, a novelist, a journalist, a biographer, a playwright, an activist, teacher, memoirist. I mean, he just did so much for not just the literary queer community, but just for the queer community in general. And A Boy's Own Story is considered a classic of LGBTQ literature, and it should be American literature as well. I hope folks aren't just being like, oh, that's a gay coming of age novel. It's much more, much more than that. He was a biographer of the playwright Jean Genet and had books on Marcel Proust and Arthur Rimbaud. Obviously, living in France, he's covering the French greats from the those literary giants. He taught at Princeton. His colleagues were Toni Morrison, and Joyce Carol Oates was a friend of his as well. It's a shock, particularly in Pride Month, to be. I know he was 85, but
I was going to say 85.
To lose Edmund White right now feels. It hurts. It hurts a little bit. He was also one of the founders of the Gay Men's Health Crisis, which was advocating for AIDS prevention and education. They formed that in 1982. He himself contracted HIV in 1985 and was one of the lucky ones from that time period, like Greg Louganis and others who managed to live a full life. And some did. Yep. Some, not a lot. So he won a National Book Award for Lifetime Achievement in 2019. And it's really, really sad that we have lost Edmund during Pride Month. He has died at 85 years old. Our thoughts and condolences to his family members and to his husband and to all of the queer folk right now that are sort of stunned. And as you can even hear my own voice, I'm like, wait, what is happening? So yeah, it's sad. It's sad, but we are grateful for everything that Edmund did for us as a community, both in the activism sphere and in the literary sphere as well. It kind of now sucks to have to transition to the Congressional Budget Office and the MAGA budget. People are calling it in headlines like the Trump tax bill. And I really just want to call it the MAGA budget bill because it's not just Trump, it's MAGA. It's a whole party that's doing this. It's not just Trump. And I think too many times folks are like, oh, well, this is Trump's deal. It's not, no, it's MAGA. MAGA is putting this out. And the Congressional Budget Office, which is nonpartisan, something I'm also learning, somebody can be nonpartisan, an organization can be, but that doesn't mean you're not going to be made partisan. Which the Republicans are trying to do right now. I'm sorry, MAGA is trying to do right now. Right. Because the Congressional Budget Office has found that the MAGA budget bill will cut taxes by $3.75 trillion, but will increase deficits by $2.4 trillion over the next decade. There will be an increase of 10.9 million people who are living without health insurance under this MAGA budget bill by the year 2034. That is a crucial number because a lot of LGBTQ people are overrepresented who on Medicaid. So by overrepresented, we mean, if we're assuming, and I know, Jim, you don't like this number, but if we're assuming that, 10% of the population is LGBTQ, then you would assume then that 10% of the people on Medicaid would also be LGBTQ, but that's actually much higher than that. So, queer folks are overrepresented in Medicaid. And so when we're seeing those cuts there, that is, not just, an American health insurance crisis, it is a queer health crisis as well. The budget package would reduce federal outlays, according to the CBO, and AP News is reporting on this, by $1.3 trillion. I am weirded out that the Democrats are all running around quoting Elon Musk right now. Musk did come out and call the bill, quote, disgusting abomination, which, okay, fine. But I really don't care what Elon Musk has to say. And I don't think Democrats running out there and going, well, Elon Musk said it's going to change any MAGA Republican in the House or the Senate from voting for this. Right.
Somebody should accidentally lock him in a freezer, I think.
Well, okay, let's
let
not
him
do
cool
that.
off.
We are not doing that in this day and age. We are not saying anything like that. We disagree with policy.
Well, I think
and
it's
his
be- I think
actions
it's
and
well-
the way he runs his corporation. Jim, stop.
I think it's well beyond that, but
Uh,
I'll leave it at that.
so we are, yeah. So I think that the Dems, lining up behind Musk's statement and saying this is what he's saying is wrong. Of course, the White House is saying that the CBO has been historically wrong, which is that's what you expect them to do about facts, deny that they are real. Even the Senate Majority Leader John Thune is coming out saying that the CBO is flat wrong, quote end quote. And yeah, this is going to be really painful because they've got the votes to do it. We are now waiting to see what they're going to do in the Senate. The Senate takes up the bill next, and Trump wants the final thing on his desk by the 4th of July so that he can do an Independence Day. Right? What was in April? The Day of Liberation from the tariffs in April, and now he wants to have the MAGA budget bill on his desk by July 4th so he can liberate Americans from their health insurance.
Yeah. Well, there will be some savings reached at the cost of human life.
Yeah.
which is not valid to me. And the average wealthy person who makes over $156,000 a year, the savings for especially the upper end of that higher demo is about $70,000. So the overwhelming savings, we're allowing people to die, and I'm being very graphic about it, so that rich people can save $70,000. And if you're okay with that, you need to sit down and look in the mirror, because that's not acceptable to any decent person.
Well,
for so-called tax savings, I don't want anybody to die so that I pay lower taxes. That's gross, I think.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Right? Am I being way out there to say that?
No, I was looking up something. I can't hear where I don't remember where it was. But I wanted to, I'm not going to say that. I think that there was reporting that I saw somewhere, and I can't fact check that right now, that the last time there wasn't a deficit was under President Eisenhower. And I thought that was notable because the last time we had, 91% marginal tax rate on the uber rich was under President Eisenhower. Because where I'm going with that is that they're always talking about the deficit. We need to bring down the deficit. And of course, all of the folks listening to progressive radio know that when Republicans say they're bringing on a deficit, they're actually going to raise the deficit. It's all projection. Right. But for me, I think, how do we start talking about this to independents and non-voters is going to be the key here. Like when I talk about this, I don't want to quote Elon Musk to a non-voter or to an independent voter, because I don't think that's going to go anywhere right now. We're going to talk more about this when we come back. You are listening to The Gailey Show on AM 950 KTNF and WCPT 820, where facts matter. The Council on LGBTQIA2S+ Minnesotans is conducting a community needs survey. Data from the survey will be used to make recommendations to improve LGBTQ people's health and well-being in Minnesota. The May 31st deadline has been extended through June. So as we celebrate Pride Month, make sure you take advantage of this extraordinary opportunity to tell our stories. The survey is confidential, and you can fill it out online at mnqt.info/survey.
What does it mean to begin? Creation Story explores Native origin stories through powerful contemporary art, connecting past and present with every brushstroke in sculpture. Explore how identity, culture, and resilience are shaped through art. Creation Story, now at All My Relations Arts through July 26th. This exhibition invites you to the heart of the Ochate-Shikowin storytelling, where spiritual relatives guide the way. Open to all. Learn more at allmyrelationsarts.org. Experience the beginning. Experience Creation Story at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis.
Meet Jordan Berman, a charming single gay man in New York City who would love to be in love if only Mr. Right would swipe right. Between singles night happy hours and bachelorette blowouts, Jordan watches his girlfriends get engaged one by one, asking, what's next for him? Dive into the highs and lows of modern love and Significant Other, opening May 30th at the Main Street Stage in Anoka. Tickets start at $43. Visit lyricarts.org. Lyric Arts, theater with character. Your Twin Cities Metro Public Libraries are committed to providing quality services, resources, and programs to the LGBTQ+ community. Check out the Metro Pride book list, including ebooks and e-audio for kids, teens, and adults at melsa.org/pride-booklist. That's melsa.org/pride-booklist. You'll find titles specific to different identities, including a romantic, asexual, bi+, gay, genderqueer, intersex, lesbian, queer families, transgender, and two-spirit. Stop by Melsa's tent at Twin Cities Pride to share your own reading recommendations. Check out those contributed by other festival attendees. Pick up buttons and bookmarks and find out more about your Twin Cities Metro Public Libraries. Don't have a library card? Staff at the tent can help you with that. There will be librarians from the Metro Public Library systems who are happy to provide book recommendations and other info on how to get the most from your library card.
It's no secret that medical care costs are soaring, with nursing home and skilled nursing care costs being some of the highest. You don't have to deplete your savings in order to receive long-term care. At Schroman Law, we work with families to develop and implement strategic planning for medical assistance for long-term care, for assisted living, nursing home care, or home-based care. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation at schromenlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I'm your host, John Parker. In studio with me is my executive producer, Jim Pounds. We are coming up here on the bottom of the hour. Our call-in number for folks who are listening in Minneapolis, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. I realized over the break that I don't really have much more to say about the CBO analysis. We knew it was going to be bad. And I think that, my thought is that the Democrats need to find a different way of communicating this to non-voters and independents, as opposed to just hiding behind a quote from Elon Musk. I think that doesn't really get us anywhere. I do want to pivot because it's still talking about corporations, but this is in Boston. So WBUR in Boston is talking about how the Boston Pride is not suffering the same amount of pullback of corporate sponsorship and sponsors, generally speaking, than other parts of the country have been seeing. Here in Minneapolis, we've seen it, in New York, Chicago, LA, all over. And not just in the major cities, too. We've talked to smaller prides that have seen funding be pulled back by folks who are, suddenly worried about how they're going to be perceived by MAGA. And, we've seen, MasterCard, Pepsi, Deloitte, all of these, big corporate sponsors. But Boston Pride has not seen that. And I want to quote here from the WBUR reporting. They are saying that when Boston Pride for the People took over the parade in 2023, they actually started a new vetting process for sponsors. And the Gary Daffin, who is a member of the Boston Pride for the People's leadership team, he told WBUR that when we look at whether they have supported anti-LGBTQ or anti-abortion issues or candidates, and we don't take sponsorships from those folks. A lot of the people that we've heard have backed out of prides, we haven't taken money from them anyway. They are a little more committed, perhaps. Local folks, rather, are more committed, perhaps, than people who just broadly sponsor prides across the country. And some of the big returning sponsors, this is the Boston Globe found out about, are Delta Airlines. Interesting, because Delta, we're like the major hub for Delta here in the Twin Cities. So I don't know if Delta is a major sponsor here, but for Boston Pride, they are. The Boston Foundation, Beth Israel Lahey Health, Eastern Bank, Eversource, and National Grid are the major sponsors, or corporate sponsors, rather, for Boston Pride's parade this year. They raise about $650,000 to $700,000 a year, which is similar to like what Minneapolis is doing. And I don't have the final numbers on Chicago, but that is a general number of what these organizations spend every month on pride events and programming. And so it's really interesting to me that how they have used their vetting process.
Well, I think Delta, my recollection about Delta is that they did retain their DEI practices. I think they were one of the companies that Dumbbell was complaining about, that they hadn't gotten rid of their DEI because they actually care about human beings. I believe that's true. So that makes me not surprised that they would not be dropping their LGBT sponsorships. So good on Delta.
Yeah,
We're flying Delta in July. So
we are.
good.
I mean, we don't really have a choice because
No, we don't.
Delta
But
has
had to
cornered the Minneapolis market.
you had to bring that up.
Well, it's true. They do the most of the flights. Anyway, I do want to note that the Boston Pride for the People faced challenges. They had problems this year attracting new sponsors, which they're citing to the economic uncertainties around the tariffs. But they have said that they have as many registrations as ever. Folks coming to the parade. Now,
Right.
interestingly, they're a ticketed event, which is different from us here in Minneapolis. We are
Yep.
the largest free pride and pride parade in
Yep.
the world.
Yep.
So it always kind of throws me when people are like, I have to pay to go there. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Los
Like, we don't.
Angeles was paid to, I mean, I haven't been there in many years, but that's where I grew up. And I remember showing up to go to Pride and there was a gate and, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it just never
Yeah.
occurred to me the first time I went to Pride that I had to pay for it. So we're very lucky in the Twin Cities.
Yeah. And I think that this also brought up something for me. I'm like, okay, this is really interesting about how they have a very more intense vetting process of who is going to be a major sponsor of your Pride. And I
Makes
think that
sense.
is a policy that we should all be looking at.
Mhm.
Here in the Twin Cities Pride cut ties with Target. So it was having a conversation with them when they rolled back their their DEI measures.
Right.
And which included a lot of things, not just related to LGBTQ folks, but
Right.
also, working with the Black and African American and African community.
Women-owned businesses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we, here we sort of walked away. We did. Our Twin Cities Pride said, no, we are not going to take your money
Right.
this year.
Blood money.
I thought that was had a lot of integrity to also say, hey,
Mhm.
we are not going to work with somebody who is going to do this. We've tried working with you. We, being the more larger LGBTQ community, has really worked on Target for a while, helping them to become better. And then they just blew it in the span of a month.
Yeah.
Actually, a year, because they were also starting to cave last June to MAGA threats, and they didn't have the courage of their convictions, as it were. But something I've been seeing online. Sorry, I want to kind of get this up because there's a couple of other things that I wanted to get to.
Yep.
Something that I see online is boycotts, and I'm all on board. Like, I have not stepped foot in Target since January. I will not step foot in Target ever again.
Nope.
I don't care at this point. I've heard I think Matt McNeil was telling us yesterday that the Pride lineup they have this year is all beige colors, which I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
That's about what I.
But something that
expect.
I think that we should be focusing on, yes, boycotts, but I think the reliance on corporate sponsors for Pride has led to a lot of pink washing, but also leads to BS like this, where they can suddenly decide to walk away and then they leave us in a lurch for our prides. And I think that instead of just boycotting, I think the queer community needs to get on board with closing corporate tax loopholes, raising taxes. And this is not just about oh, you pulled back funding, so now we're going to punish you and try to close the tax loopholes. I think that we need to move away from saying, if you are going to be a good steward to the LGBTQ community, you need to be paying your taxes. You need to be regulated and stop poisoning the environment and stop effing around with healthcare. Like, you need to have regulations in place. You need to, I'm looking at you, Meta and Google right now. You need to be broken up. You can't be buying out your competition.
Well, I think the way I'm looking at it is I'm going to pay a lot of attention to who is sponsoring this year, because those might be the really good people. I mean, I don't know, but at least they have some spine, and at a time of a lot of cowardice, in fact, an unbelievable amount of cowardice in corporate America, if they're still sponsoring a Pride celebration, they have some spine, and I can respect that. So I'm going to turn, what I usually do is make the positive negative, but I'm going to make the negative positive this time and say I want to respect the corporations that are still sponsoring Pride somewhere. But I hear what you're saying. There's more accountability than that.
Yeah. I think that we need to be reassessing how we're approaching corporations.
I agree.
All right, we are going to take a break here. When we come back, Jake Wittich, managing editor of Windy City Times, joins us. This show on Progressive Radio is not possible without our advertisers and sponsors. Please shop with them and do business with them and tell them you heard about them on The Gailey Show right here on AM 950 KTNF or WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Mornings can be tough, unless, of course, you're listening to the
Golden Valley.
Queer gays.
Oh, well, you better do that right when you come back.
Got to talk about it in the Friday show.
Come to do it right now. So do it right now. Say hi, Jake, before we start, and do your thing. Do you know what I mean? Hi, Jake.
Hello.
Hey, Jake. Hi.
Just do it right at the top.
Hi. Sorry, I'm just remembering something that I forgot to do.
All good.
I hate it when that happens. Okay, so there's something I'm gonna have to do off the top real quick, and then we will come to you. I know that I owe you an email. It's been kind of a zoo here in the past 24 hours. So
You're good. It's busy here
it
too.
has to happen all at once, and it's driving me bonkers, and it needs to stop.
It's probably not going to stop.
Well, at some point. But yes, and all good stuff too. Thank you, Jake, for your email, and I am looking forward to possibilities.
Yeah.
All right. I think we will. Oh, people who are listening on YouTube are right now are like, what are they talking about?
Jake, I want you to know he doesn't
so-
make any more sense at home than he does here. So
Yeah, no,
don't,
sorry, I'm doing like
in
16
case you're
things right now.
wondering.
But all right, so I think everything sounds good. So we'll flip back to the commercial feed, and then we'll see you in 90 seconds.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Or listen anytime by finding Boldly Challenging Ableism on YouTube or your favorite podcast app.
Hi, this is Frank Brown of Minuteman Press Uptown with a question for our listeners. How important are business values to you? When you need high quality digital print, it matters who you work with. You see, Minuteman Uptown is unique. We're one of the only union print shops in Minnesota providing our team with living wages and benefits. We believe in second chances for justice impacted individuals who want to contribute to the community. And we are active in local issues. We've been in the streets standing up for racial, social, and economic justice. At Minuteman Uptown, our mission is to connect all communities through technology-driven print solutions. An example of that mission is when I moved Minuteman Uptown to North Minneapolis. We're invested in this local community, and we help small businesses and local organizations throughout the Twin Cities reach their audiences. Reach out to Minuteman Uptown and partner with a printer that shares your values. Call us today at 612-870-0777 or visit us at mpuptown.com. That's mpuptown.com.
Your heart beats for generations. Take care of it.
There's a lot that we can do to take care of ourselves. And so I think it's important to take the smaller steps and break it down into more manageable pieces because the little steps leads to big changes.
Every beat of your heart tells a story of love, resilience, and hope. For Indigenous women, taking care of your heart means creating more moments with the ones you cherish. Let's protect that story. Learn more at hennepin.us/heart-beats.
That is very intense music to bring us back. I don't have any breaking news to match that music, but you are listening to The Gailey Show on AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. I am your host, Channyn Parker. It is just past the bottom of the hour. Queer Gays here in the Twin Cities presents Pride at Imagine Willow Creek. Queer Gays is excited to once again partner with Imagine Willow Creek Theater to showcase a series of queer films all this month for Pride. So get ready to laugh and cheer and shed a joyful tear with them on Sundays at 2 p.m. when they celebrate queer films new and old. This Sunday on June 8th is the film Tangerine. It's Christmas Eve, and trans sex worker Cinderella is back from a 28-day stint in jail. Upon hearing from her best friend Alexandria that Chester, her pimp boyfriend, was unfaithful while she was away, Cindy sets out on an odyssey through Los Angeles to get to the bottom of what's going on. Technically, this film was the first ever shot on an Apple phone,
Hmm.
the entire thing. Also, as a queer Armenian, this film has amazing queer Armenian representation in the film, which I didn't know going into it, but it stands out as a history making in that regard as well. So you can go to imagine-entertainment.com/queer-gaze. We'll put that link in our show notes and on our website, and you can also find it on our Blue Sky. Thank you. You can get that link. And right. So see you Sunday at Imagine Willow Creek. All right. Windy City Times has been the voice of Chicago's LGBTQ+ community since 1985. This year marks the news outlet's 40th anniversary of uplifting queer stories, reporting with pride, and chronicling LGBTQ+ history. Visit windycitytimes.com/newsletters to sign up for the publication's weekly LGBTQ+ news updates. Jake Wittich is managing editor of Windy City Times, where he reports in-depth stories on Chicago's LGBTQ+ community and oversees the publication's growing newsletter operation, which you all need to check out and subscribe to, like we are, Jim and I. Welcome back, Jake. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
All right. So can we start with Equality Illinois? Their CEO, Brian Johnson, has resigned, and they have now named a new interim CEO.
Yeah, so Equality Illinois, they're a nonprofit here in Illinois. It was actually founded by Art Johnston, who's a longtime activist that owns the bar Sidetrack here in Chicago. And they do a lot of advocacy work to push a pro-LGBTQ+ agenda in the Illinois state legislature. And Brian Johnson has led the organization for 9 years now. And he's always said, I'm going to do it about a decade and then I'm going to step down. So we're at that time now, 9 years instead of 10, but his last day is June 30th. So they announced they always do a brunch to kick off Pride Month. So they announced at the brunch this past weekend that Channyn Lynne Parker from the Brave Space Alliance is going to be their interim CEO while they find a new one.
So Brian stepping down is just part of a regular leadership transition. It wasn't like sort of a shock and came out of nowhere.
Exactly. Yeah. People knew it was coming. I had heard rumblings before the announcement was even made, so I knew to expect this. And I think it was around February or March that he announced he's stepping down effective the end of June. And he's going to remain on as like an advisor through the transition process. So he's not going anywhere. He's still going to be involved in the community, but I think he's just ready to pass the torch.
Briefly, can you share a little bit about like Equality Illinois' accomplishments under Brian before we start talking about Channyn?
Yeah, I mean, they've passed so many different bills. I mean, Illinois is recognized as a safe haven for LGBTQ+ people. I remember when marriage equality passed, I think Brian was in charge at that time. I remember going to a press conference celebrating like 1 year of marriage equality, or maybe even 5 years. I don't know. It's such a blur. I've been covering this for decade and a half now. But yeah, he's been involved through a lot of the pro-trans legislation we have here in Illinois, ongoing efforts to legalize sex work in Illinois he's involved in. So he's really seen through a lot of progress for our community.
Well, it sounds like a thank you to Brian for his service, and really excited to hear about Channyn Lynne Parker, who is the CEO of Brave Space Alliance. And I know that you've been covering Brave Space Alliance for a long time now. So tell us about Channyn.
Yeah, so Channyn, I think it's a great fit actually, because Channyn has seen Brave Space Alliance through a transitional period of its own. It had dealt with a little bit of rockiness when its last CEO was removed from the position. So Channyn came in to kind of rebuild trust in the organization, and she did that very quickly. She's only been there 2 years. So I think it's great for her to see Equality Illinois through this transitional period of its own. She's going to be part-time at Equality Illinois. She's still full-time as CEO of Brave Space Alliance. So it's crazy to me how she does it, but probably a lot of caffeine and not a lot of sleep. But I think she's, yeah. But she's so plugged into the attacks on the trans community right now. And, she is a Black trans woman. So for a Black trans woman to be in this position of leadership at this moment in time, I think is really important.
Yeah.
And, remind us about the work that Brave Space Alliance does, because it's so critical for Chicago.
Yeah, so they are a social services agency on the south side of Chicago. And that's really significant because The north side has the Center on Halsted, Howard Brown Health. Both have branched to other parts of the city, but they're really centralized on the north side. A lot of resources are. So they're filling a gap, I guess, that existed on the south side for quite some time. And they do a lot of housing work. They have their Dignity Closet where trans people can come and just get access to gender affirming clothing. They have a food pantry that's accessible to everyone. You know, they serve more than just the LGBTQ community. They've actually been really involved in supporting a lot of the immigrants that are here in Chicago at the moment. Yeah, so they do a lot of great work.
So I'm curious then, what is the timeline, and can Channyn apply if she wants to?
Right. The sense I got is Shannon's not going to be applying. She's dedicated to Brave Space Alliance. She's on the board of Equality Illinois already. So she's already got these ties to the organization. They needed someone to step up, and she saw this as her time to help out this organization. So
fantastic.
Talk about sacrifice. Wow.
So do we know then what the, I mean, come on, working full time and then a part time of Equality Illinois.
Right. Wow.
It's wild. It makes me think of Precious Brady Davis, who's another trans leader here in Chicago. And she's a commissioner for the Water Reclamation District. But then she's also the senior director of strategy, I think, at Center on Halsted.
Wow.
And that's 2 full-time jobs. Or maybe the MWRD is part-time and then Center on Halsted is full-time, but she's busy, and I'm just like,
barely keep it together with this show.
Do you not have enough queers in Illinois, or what's the problem?
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. The timeline, I'm not quite sure. Applications are still open. I'm scanning the application right now. It doesn't say when they close, at least that's jumping out at me.
Open now.
But I do think they'd probably like to have someone by the end of the year.
Yeah. So from your perspective, being a managing editor of Windy City Times and having reported for a while now in Chicago, and this is a personal question, what would you like to see Equality Illinois take up now under new leadership?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great in the recent years to see them really take on a lot of trans issues. And I think that's what we really need to focus on right now. They're the most persecuted in our community. The majority of these attacks from the federal government at the moment are targeting trans people. And when we lift up the most vulnerable people in our community, it raises all of us. So I think continuing that mission of serving the most vulnerable will benefit everyone.
Equality Illinois, you all have a pretty vocal governor right now, Governor Pritzker, who has basically said, nah, I'm not giving up on trans people. We are going to defend them. Generally speaking, does Equality Illinois have receptive partners on your version of the Hill and within the governor's office?
I think so. I didn't do it this year. I was kind of bummed. But last year I went down to Springfield on Advocacy Day. I took the bus with Equality Illinois, wore my press pass the whole time, But I took the bus with them to Springfield for the day. And Pritzker actually came out and met with the contingent that they brought down there. He took a big group photo. I saw the photo again this year, so I know he made time for them. And then we have a lot of allies in our state legislature. We have 2 openly LGBTQ people. There's State Senator Mike Simmons, and then there's State Rep Kelly Cassidy. But maybe there will be more, with this coming election. So who knows? But they do have a lot of partners in Springfield.
That's good.
Well, great. We'll keep tuned to your reporting to see how all of this plays out over the next few months. If we can switch gears to some other critical reporting that you're doing, which was really shocking reporting, but hopefully this is not, I guess it kind of is actually the result of all of the MAGA hatred that's going on right now. But you've been reporting on Katie Grass, who is seeking hate crime charges after she suffered a pretty vicious attack at a McDonald's in Carpentersville. So can we start with the incident itself of what happened to Katie?
Yeah, so Katie, she lives in Wisconsin, and she was in town near the Carpentersville area visiting some family, and she was hungry, so she was going to get food. She could have gone to a different McDonald's that was closer, but she doesn't like that one, so she went to this one in Carpentersville. She took her 13-year-old cousin, and it all stemmed when Katie tried to use the restroom. So Katie, who is a cis woman, she's a lesbian, and she went to use the women's restroom, but it was full. So she walked back out. She's like, whatever, I'll just go to the bathroom later. She goes to meet back up with her cousin in like the lobby area where you order food. And there was a group of 3 people, but 2 of them were involved in the attack. They started launching these homophobic slurs at her. And she kind of just was like, stop, leave me alone. Then they followed her to the lobby and she was trying to ignore them. And then the younger one, so there were 2 people that got charged. There's an adult and then a juvenile. And the younger one got in her face and was just trying to intimidate her. And then she kind of pushed him to back up. And then that's when they started attacking her.
In the lobby.
In the lobby of the McDonald's. Yeah. She said the manager of the McDonald's came rushing to try and break up the fight, but then they attacked him too. Yeah. And she broke her nose, or they broke her nose, and she fell to the ground and they were allegedly stomping on her. She shared photos with us that the damage was rough, so very traumatic for her and her 13-year-old cousin who had to watch this.
Oh my goodness. So now, how does this work now in terms of, because Illinois has hate crime legislation. So how does this work? Like, does she pursue them, or does like the attorney's office, like the DA, do they decide this is going to happen? Like, how does all that play out?
I'm glad you're asking, because I do have an update, which is good. The story's not up yet, but I do have an update. So originally, police filed the charges. There were no hate crime charges, but there were felony charges stemming from the attack. And then she was like, why aren't there not hate crime charges? No one really talked to her about that, is what she told me. So through the news reporting on this, that was the big question. Why is this not a hate crime? And I've had this question with other stories in the past too. Like when trans women are murdered in Chicago, it's often not classified as a hate crime, which I struggle to understand why,
Right.
So, but that question was raised, and then the Kane County State's Attorney's Office, I forget her name, it's Jamie something, the state's attorney, she announced she was investigating the incident and whether or not to add hate crime charges. And my update is she did add a hate crime charge.
Good.
So the adult who was involved in the attack allegedly now faces a felony hate crime charge.
Good.
I'm glad to hear that. It is interesting how quickly they all come out. And the investigation hasn't even begun, and they're all no. This wasn't hate crime.
Right. Yeah. And so I'm so numb to it almost. I was kind of just like not surprised there wasn't hate crime charges. I hardly questioned it because I'm just used to that from my reporting. But I'm glad the question was raised and that Katie raised it.
Right.
And those charges have been filed.
Yeah.
And she's also been connected with a lot of resources. There's a advocate for survivors of hate crimes here in Chicago. Her name is Dawn, and she called me and was like, would you check with Katie if she's comfortable sharing her number with me? So I connected them. So I know Katie's been connected with a lot of resources. There's a GoFundMe to help with Katie's legal fees and medical bills, and that's already raised more than $80,000. So people are really coming out to support her.
That's great. I got to fit in a break here. We're going to have more with Jake Wittich, managing editor for Windy City Times. You are listening to The Gailey Show on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and WCPT 820.
Hi, I'm Peter Solak.
And I'm Adam Ostrowski.
We are here at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces to talk about outdoor fires. Sitting around a fire is the oldest, most basic form of human activity.
What's new is in the way fire is burned. We can show you how to burn cleaner with a lot less smoke.
The radiant heat and light from an open fire is unmatched. It kindles our spirits and connects us to the outdoors. And now it's easier to experience and enjoy.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces sells and installs wood and gas burning fire pits and fireplaces. Let us help you experience an outdoor fire without all the smoke.
Come see the many ways you can enjoy a fire outdoors.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood and gas units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. More information at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that works for you. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Rest. June is here, which means you might be having a graduation party at your house soon. Summer also means sleepovers. Your kids are going to be at the playground, at the water park, at the beach. There's going to be a lot of mess coming into the house over the summer, and you need to call my cleaning heroes at Zero Res to make sure your home is in order for the summer. And since June is here, it's time to take advantage of Zero Res's best deal of the summer. Zero Res can take care of any surface in your home or business, including carpet, tile, hardwood, rugs, upholstery, and air ducts. This month, take 20% off all services when you call my friends at Zero Res 9520-RES or go to ZeroResMinnesota.com. Just tell them you want the AM 950 special. Their prompt, courteous team will come out and take care of you. Again, that's 20% off all services this month. Go to ZeroResMinnesota.com or call 9520-RES and ask for the AM 950 special. Zero Res, backward or forward, spells the same.
When was the last time you had your roof inspected for extreme weather and hail damage? This is Chad, owner of AM 950, to talk about the exterior construction company I trust, Snap Construction. If you've noticed new roofing projects in your neighborhood, your home was likely hit by hail last summer and experienced damage. Snap Construction is helping homeowners like you, and they're the roofing specialists I trust. They are the most well-reviewed contractor in the Twin Cities and have a ton of positive customer reviews from homeowners just like you. Even better, Snap Construction's installations are backed by a lifetime warranty, so you know you're dealing with a qualified roofing expert. You want to work with a company that will be here for a long time after the work is done. Snap Construction has handled thousands of claims and will help you through the process. Do yourself a favor and get a free roofing inspection so you have the facts and peace of mind you deserve. Call Snap Construction today at 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP. Or visit snapconstruction.com.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. We are coming up here on the top of the hour. We are joined by Jake Wittich, managing editor for Windy City Times. Jake joins us every other Wednesday to share the award-winning journalism from Windy City Times. And Jake, turning to Pride Month, so we can sort of end the show today on a more celebratory vibe. There is a lot going on. You've been trying to cover all the different events that folks can go to in the Chicago and suburban region over the month. And we were very excited that Scott and Ellen from Out Chicago, right here on WCPT 820 on the weekends, were the grand marshals of the Grand Buffalo Grove Parade, rather, this past Sunday. So I'm sorry I got to miss that. They will also be in a float and broadcasting live at the Chicago Pride Parade at the end of the month, so the 29th. But Jake, do you want to start the tour? Where should we begin?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to start off by saying we at Windy City Times are your headquarters for anything Pride. Like we have our calendar, Chicago Social Butterflies. It's also a weekly newsletter. It's just roundups and roundups and roundups of LGBTQ events across Chicago. So if you're in the city at all this month and are looking for something to do, check out Chicago Social Butterflies. It's such a great resource. And because of that, we've published two really good guides on windycitytimes.com. One is a roundup of almost 100 events across Chicago for Pride. It's crazy. And it doesn't even scratch the surface of how much is going on here. And then we have another that it's about to be updated with more than 30 suburban. They're just Chicago area. Some of these aren't really suburbs, suburban Pride events though. Wow. So lots to do.
Any highlights that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, personally, I'm excited for some of the parties. There's this recurring party that's kind of a rave, but it's a little more above ground now. It's called Boots, and they're taking over the legendary Metro and Smart Bar in Lakeview later this month. I should have written the date down, but it's on our calendar. Boots is a really fun party. There's also Super Sapphic that I go to. And that's a party centering lesbians. Obviously, men like me are welcome. Understand you're a guest there, though. And that's like this convergence of like 3 different lesbian-centered parties all in one. It's again at Metro and Smart Bar, an all-building takeover. Some of the best DJs. It's a lot of fun.
Wow.
So like here in the cities, in the Twin Cities, we have lots of different Pride festivals. Some, I don't know I think Twin Cities Pride is the only one that has a parade. Are there multiple parades that folks can go to in Chicago?
There's some parades.
One.
There's just the big one. I know like the Unity Park Advisory Council. Unity Park is a public park in Logan Square on the northwest side, and they're holding a Pride celebration there, their first ever, which is really cool. It's a primarily, it's being gentrified, but a Latino area. So important to have Pride in all parts of the city, and they're going to do a mini Pride parade. So there's things like that, but other than that, just the Chicago Pride Parade and a few in the suburbs like Buffalo Grove, which happened on June 1st.
Is there a reason why the festival is one weekend and the parade is a different weekend? Is that of some necessity? There's a reason why that has to be that way? Huh? There's just too many gays for one.
I think probably two reasons. One is necessity. Like we draw such a huge crowd for the parade, and the parade is like, they're working on shortening it, but it's reached like 4 or 5 hours long, now they're trying to get it within 2 hours. And then the festival is its own thing. It draws a huge crowd as well. So I think logistically also, why not expand the celebration?
Oh yeah. And I wasn't complaining. I think in a lot of cases, my image is that the festival and a parade in any particular place happen at the same weekend, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it has become different, but I know in Minneapolis, the parade leads into the festival. They literally come to the park where the festival is.
Ours is like,
and that makes sense. Yeah. And maybe that's what we need, because there are issues after the parade sometimes with just crowd control. You have all these people packed in. Where does everybody go?
Right.
And then a lot of people are just hanging out in Boys Town or North Halstead, whichever you call it. And there's street takeovers. It can get kind of rowdy. So maybe we do need a place for people to go after the parade that's controlled. They can check security, check bags, things like that. But
is it a ticketed event?
Yes. So our festivals are unique in Chicago because they're all public, it's not a private Pride festival where, So basically they cannot require you pay to get in, but there is a suggested donation. Most festivals are $15. I think Pride Fest might be a suggested donation of $20. And I really suggest people do donate. It benefits the North Halstead Business Alliance, which supports the local business economy along Halstead Street. And it supports the next year's Pride Festival. So don't roll your eyes. If you have the money to pay, you really should.
Right.
Now more than ever.
Yeah. One thing I'm curious about with Pride Fest coming up, I was on a few months ago talking about the issue of sponsorships, and you were talking about it earlier today as well. It's still unclear whether Bud Light is going to be sponsoring Pride Fest or not. And the North Halstead Business Alliance is still not answering questions about it, which, I have my suspicions maybe Bud Light is involved, and I might not get an answer until Pride Fest happens. And that's when I'll do the story. So, but it's going to happen. So,
right.
I have, I don't even know where to be. Be a sponsor or don't be a sponsor. Don't do it behind the scenes. And if they're going to pull out they're going to pull out and they're not going to do it anymore, then I don't even know if I want to see them again in the future.
Well, I think you were talking about Twin Cities Pride and Target, how they pulled ties with Target themselves, and maybe that's what we need to do to Anheuser-Busch. Tell them, if you're not going to support diversity, we're not going to sell your beer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's other beer. Right.
Yeah. And when you come back 5 years from now, because it's cool, because we have a Democratic president again, no. No. Right. And I think, this may lead to a re-envisioning of what we need Pride to be, and it's been nice to have spaces where we can celebrate each other and build community. And maybe now, because of MAGA, it needs to be more spaces of protest and marching and activism again. But thank you, Jake, for joining us today. That'll be a conversation for another Wednesday.
Yeah. Thank you. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. Folks, don't forget, Queer Gaze presents the film Tangerine this Sunday, June 8th at Imagine Willow Creek in the Twin Cities. Up next on WCPT 820 is Choose Views with Richard Chu, and on AM 950 Radio, it is the Matt McNeil Show. Stay tuned after that for Native Roots Radio. And until tomorrow, keep it queer, America.
Keep it queer.